If you knew the exact date of your death, how would that change the way you live? That is a topic author Chloe Benjamin takes on in her latest novel, The Immortalists.
4 children learn their fates, and it shapes their adult lives in very different ways. Benjamin was recently in Maine for a talk at Print Bookstore. We sat down with her to find out why alternate reality is so intriguing.
Well, I always wish that I had a good fortune teller story, but it really came out of my own neuroses. I'm somebody who's always struggled with uncertainty and not knowing, and of course those are so core to human life. And so I think the story came from this desire to see how people would live their lives if they could know the unknowable, and if we could be certain about what is so uncertain. And there's nothing more uncertain than mortality.
So the book focuses on these kids who get this fortune. They find out when they're going to die, and then how that shapes their lives in general. Is this story, in your mind, more about death or more about life?
That's a great question. I think it's more about life. I could have gone much more into rituals around death, or things like finances and burial, and I made a conscious decision to focus more on what happens up to that moment, because I think it's about how we live in the face of mortality much more than it is about that final terrain itself.
Your first book, The Anatomy of Dreams, did really well. It was your first novel. How exciting was it to, you got an award for it, to really have people embrace you with your first novel?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I'm so grateful for everything that the first book brought into my life, but I also feel like it didn't reach a very wide readership, at least in comparison to this one. And there were some wonderful things about that. I could go back and work on this book unencumbered and not have any concerns about disappointing an audience or what they would think. But I think this time it's gone so much wider, and the readership is much bigger, and so that's actually felt like a very new and amazing experience.
With both of these novels, you're sort of digging into the human psyche a little bit here, and you mentioned you yourself struggle sometimes with anxiety. Is this sort of a way to kind of find the answers through writing?
I think it's probably an attempt, although I never feel like I'm very successful, because I think it's just, it's a question I suspect I'll struggle with for the rest of my life. I think we all do. There's no easy answer when it comes to coping with loss and with the fact that we don't know how long we or our loved ones have in the world. So I always wish I could say that writing the book sort of healed me of those concerns, but in some ways I think it made them worse because I had to live with them and inside them for years. And I think most of us, myself included, kind of suppress that in order to keep functioning at some level. If you're constantly concerned about mortality, it's going to be really inhibiting.
Did you find yourself asking that question to yourself of, if I knew when I was going to die, how would that change the course of my life?
I didn't ask it of myself so much as I thought about it through these characters, because I think for me, I'm already such a warrior that I would just be like, why me? I wouldn't be one of those people who took it gracefully and is like, so but I think that you don't know until you're faced with it. I also believe that.
All right, what's next for you? What do you have in the works?
I'm working on another book. I'm very superstitious, so I feel like I shouldn't say anything about it, or else bad things will happen. Yeah, I've been working on it for about a year and a half, and it's going a little slow because I've been getting to do all kinds of fun stuff for the Immortalists, but hopefully that'll be next.
That's true. You have been on this book tour. What have you been hearing from some of your readers?
A lot of enthusiasm. It's been incredible just to feel the emotional connection that people are having with the book, and I think that's something that stands out to me as being different from anything I've done in the past. I think it's because the themes are so universal. No matter who you are or what your family is like, you probably struggle with your family at some level. You probably think about mortality at some level. So I think it's a book that all kinds of people have been able to come to and connect with.
Really interesting concept, and you can read more about it in The Immortalists, which is on bookshelves now.
I don't want to know the day that I'm going to die. I want to know the place where I'm going to die.
Oh, I wouldn't. Nope.
Yes, you want to know why you should know the place where you're going to die?
So you don't ever go there?
Because then you don't go there.
Fair enough. What if it's here, though? You have to come here.
Oh, well, no. Well, interesting thought. I think I could tear myself away.
Oh, fair enough.